Hello, friends, and welcome to another one of our weekly updates. In fact, this week, ending on Friday, January the 9th, it's our very first weekly update video of the year. Mitch Prosser alongside our counsel, Jerry Royal, here at NC Family. Now that you've had enough cookies and ham and cookies and mac and cheese and cookies,
And black eyed peas,
collard greens, and thinly cooked cornbread.
fried cornbread.
Oh, man, it sounds good. Making me hungry. There's a lot to get to, including cookies, and so we'll jump right into this week's update. News came out this week that has been long predicted and by political pundits and scholars alike that the North Carolina Republican Party would surpass the North Carolina Democrat Party when it came to those who are registered to vote. That happened the very first week of this year. Jerry, that's not all the story, though. Tell us a little bit more about the story as we know it.
Okay. And I know you helped this week with writing a story
Yes,
about
sir.
that, because the tendency is to think, oh, well, it's about somewhere 50-50. There's another part of the story that lets us know, actually, as far as voter registration in North Carolina, the largest percentage
Are unaffiliated. About 38% of the state's voter registrants are unaffiliated, while 32 split, we can get down into the hundredths of a percent, are Democrat and Republican. So the question then becomes, what does that mean? Does that mean that more people are voting Republican, Democrat? The answer is we don't know because of the large swath of unaffiliated voters. Jerry, you're right. Yours truly. I wrote a story this past week addressing some of this. You can go to our website, mcfamily.org, or probably click that button down at the bottom of this video and learn more about what that means or doesn't mean for the state in the future. Let's talk about a couple things that happened inside the building, inside the General Assembly building this week, specifically a House Select Committee on Government Efficiency. Jerry, you were in the building for it. Tell us about what happened on Wednesday of this week.
All right. Well, it's another example. I think we mentioned in a previous video, we follow the activity at the legislature. Sometimes, even if we don't think a committee is going to be looking
Yes.
specifically at an issue we're working on, they all obviously are interconnected.
That's right.
And what they talked about this week in that particular committee was similar to what happened a few weeks ago, where they were looking at the application of our state and federal law as it applies to what's happening in certain cities or counties. And in this case, it was in relation to discrimination.
Yes.
Or diversity, equity, and inclusion.
Yes.
Are, in this case, local governments, our university system, where are they in relation to what the law says and what is actually being applied in various areas? The first, and I don't we get too much into the details, but I found it's very encouraging to see when our state legislature is not just looking at passing laws, but how are they actually being implemented.
Yes.
The probably longest presentation was put together by an attorney in the Asheville area.
And she was seeking to hold the city of Asheville accountable for some of the things that she considers discriminatory in nature.
Right, how money's being appropriated in various programs, and it was a 42-page
Yeah.
presentation that
Extensive document.
she made, well documented, and it was interesting because she, I think, built a foundation, said here's what our state law and our federal laws say in relation to discrimination. And so what does that mean when you're looking at how a city, and many of these examples she pointed out, are appropriating money? And again, not to get too much into the particulars, but it was very eye-opening to see where, the basic law is you don't discriminate on characteristics that can't be changed
Yes,
about people.
immutable
Their race,
characteristics,
immutable
yes.
characteristics. Race, color, national origin.
Yes.
And went through and said, okay, here's an example where it said white and Asian applicants would
Right.
not be considered. And you're going, wait, this is not how government's supposed to work. I know I'm getting into the particulars I said I wouldn't get into, but that was just one example of many where, there needs to be accountability, and this was a good example. Now, they did point out when you do this, you need to allow everybody an opportunity to respond to information that's
Perhaps
being
another
presented.
hearing will come where the city of Asheville gets the opportunity to answer some of the questions or accountability measures that were brought up. In addition to this attorney, UNC's system was there, and the mayor of Raleigh as well as the city manager of Raleigh were there to respond to some videos that came out in 2025, calling them out on some of their practices, DEI practices, or lack thereof, as they sought to explain yesterday. So it was a very interesting hearing.
It was, and in those two cases you mentioned, it was real interesting because both of those presentations were basically representatives of Raleigh and one of the UNC system saying, we have followed the law, we are following the law, we will follow the law. So it was kind of interesting. It was a different presentation from the Asheville one. But again, it was people, bottom line to me is it's a healthy part of what should be happening where there's accountability, where people are going, okay, I'm here at this meeting to tell you whether we're following the law. We interpret it that we are. And this is where our government is working properly.
Yes.
It's frustrating when laws get passed and then people go, is anybody following the law? Well, in this case, the question's being asked and people are finding, I need to be doing what's right. You mentioned the Raleigh one, the UNC one, they talked a lot about changes have been made. There was, of course, in 2023, a U.S. Supreme Court decision saying that UNC and Harvard were violating the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment in what was called race-conscious admissions policy.
Yes.
Where they were wrongly, including or excluding certain people based on race. And
Those immutable characteristics.
So this again, it's hopefully a helpful lesson for y'all. It was for me to see how our government can and should work.
Well, I think there were a lot of great comments and questions from those legislators who are those members of the House committee on Wednesday of this week. It was very informative. It's the first of possibly many steps to come. But that leads us to what's going to happen this coming week inside the North Carolina General Assembly. They are scheduled to be in the building this coming week as you're listening to this or watching it on a Friday or Saturday when it's published and you get the email. They're scheduled to be in the building this coming week. Most likely not going to be there again. The most current adjournment resolution, the one that they modified a few months ago, it laid this week out for them to be there, but all stories we hear, all the news we hear is that they won't be in the building. That leaves a few things open, including some veto overrides on DEI issues. Jerry, there's 3 of those specifically. Right. Which ones are they?
Well, this is what's interesting, which ties in with that committee meeting this week, because a lot of the discussion in that was about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And the 3 bills that are have been on the calendar for the House for possible veto overrides are, like you say, there are 3 different bills. One of them is K through 12 education. Yes. One is higher education, and one is for government, state government. And so I found it interesting that part of those discussions, in particular the UNC system, is one relating to higher education. So even without this law going through at this point in North Carolina, people are recognizing, wait a minute, they made reference to President Trump's
the federal legislation,
his actions, and others where people are going, okay, and of course they also had a Supreme Court ruling, things that are causing things to change and to follow what people, and this was a good part of the discussion that, like I say, happened on both sides. What does the law say about non-discrimination, about diversity, equity, and inclusion? And maybe it was interpreted one way. Now people are having a different understanding, and the activity of government needs to fall in line with what is the current interpretation. Granted, there have been wrong interpretations in the past. Hopefully what's happening in this system of government is you bring it back to what is the proper, correct interpretation.
Right. And that seems to be what the effort is here. Along with those, a veto overrides one HB 87 in regard to the ECCA, which would set up a scholarship fund for students seeking to go to school in a place, an environment, a school that fits their needs. And of course, the other looming question in regard to the General Assembly meeting, we're the only state in the nation that does not have a current fiscal budget. The government has not shut down in North Carolina. We are still operating under the 23-24 fiscal biennium budget. However, they have not passed a new budget. It appears that we're at an impasse, a stalemate, and if they don't meet in January, most likely not going to get a budget in January.
Right. Which again is unfortunate. I know we've asked before to pray with us that
Yes.
this would get resolved. And again, a side note, a meeting of a committee on Tuesday of this past week, one was the Secretary of State making a presentation, the other was the state auditor, and references were made to the impact that it's having on our government right now that we don't have a budget. It's looking at the new needs of various parts of our state government. That's a vital part of what needs to happen.
Well, you can count on us to keep a continual ear to the ground in regard to all of the happenings of the North Carolina General Assembly. We'll keep you up to date on those. One more thing to mention, two more things. One more thing to mention is that primary season is upon us. The candidate filing term or time to file was December 1st through the 19th. That has ended, obviously, now that we're in the new year. And the field is locked outside of those that may drop out for whatever reason. And there are several primaries, both Democrat and Republican, coming up on March the 3rd. We're about 54 days away, depending on when you're watching this. And that's hard to believe. We're going to start seeing it. If you didn't know that primary season is upon us, just turn on the TV or scroll social media. You're probably going to see some of those ads.
Yeah. Which is amazing. When you say that number of days, it wasn't that long ago that North Carolina's primaries were much later. But
Yes.
they backed them up. And so, as you say, the time is drawing near.
So we'll continue to monitor those. Of course, after primary season, we'll be sending a survey out to produce the 2026 voter guide, and we look forward to getting that in your hands, in your group's hands, in your family's hands, in your church's hands. We want you to make sure that you know who is on the ballot and where they stand when it comes to the issues that you and we at NC Family here care about. One last thing before we go, I think this is exciting. Our theme for this year, 2026, considering it's the 250th anniversary and our 35th anniversary as an organization, is we hold these truths, of course, borrowing from the Jeffersonian language found in the Declaration of Independence. Another resource for you, I'm glad we mentioned this at the end, Jerry, so they didn't pause us to go, is called The Truths We Hold, where our Director of Research and Education, Adamo Manfra, and I sit down for some in-depth conversations on those truths, those core principles that NC Family and, of course, you and your family hold so dearly. So you can go to wherever you get podcasts. You can listen to our radio show. You can find it on our website. It's ncfamily.org, and you can go and find out more about not only our theme for this year, we hold these truths, but the truths we hold in that monthly podcast that you're going to see throughout the rest of this year. Jerry, any parting thoughts before we go today?
No, thank you y'all for listening, to working together with us, because as we've shared, there's some challenges facing our state right now, and we need, as always, to be praying for God's direction and guidance
Absolutely.
in all these
Yes, sir.
areas.
Well, hopefully you've put the cookies down. You've maybe taken a walk or got on the treadmill. Maybe you ate those collard greens and black-eyed peas. Whichever the case is, we're glad you've joined us today for this week's update. We hope to see you again soon. On behalf of Jerry, myself, John, and the rest of our team here at NC Family, God bless you, and we hope you have a great week.